Dave Mierswa Show, the cutting-edge talk show about legal, political, and current issues. Practicing in both Wisconsin and Illinois, David Mierswa is a leading trial attorney bringing nearly 2 decades of business law, family law, personal injury, and estate planning experience to you. The Dave Mierswa Show, about the people, for the people, and bringing justice to the people. The Dave Mierswa Show, its guests, agents, and WRLR are not rendering any legal advice. All listeners are encouraged to seek legal advice from properly licensed and qualified professionals.
All right, welcome back from break here. You are listening to host and author and trial lawyer and etc., Dave Mierswa. And I got to say that we really have a heated topic here today. This is President Obama going down to Cuba, and really he downplayed the Belgian attack that happened by 3 or 4 suicide bombers, and they are more like homicide bombers for committing mass murder. But let's play the next audio clip. You know, I'm already on fire from just talking about this. Let's hear what President Obama has to say, and then we'll come back and I'll talk about that.
Before I begin, please indulge me. I want to comment on the terrorist attacks that have taken place in Brussels. The thoughts and the prayers of the American people are with the people of Belgium, and we stand in solidarity with them in condemning these outrageous attacks against innocent people. We will do whatever is necessary to support our friend and ally Belgium in bringing to justice those who are responsible. And this is yet another reminder that the world must unite. We must be together, regardless of nationality or race or faith, in fighting against the scourge of terrorism. We can and we will defeat those who threaten the safety and security of people all around the world.
Okay, that was about a 53-second audio clip on President Obama, and that audio clip was real interesting because I believe it came from Cuba while he was down there. His total speech, I believe, was over 20, could be up to 30 minutes, whatever it was, and the big argument there was he spent 52 seconds on it. Okay, so here's how you can analyze a politician as to what they talk about, and you analyze their actions. So he's down in Cuba, and he talks, let's just say, for 20 minutes. Okay, 20 minutes he's talking, and he spends less than 1 minute talking about the Belgian attack. Isn't that incredible? That is less than 5% acknowledge about a major terrorist attack on a NATO ally. And if you didn't know this, NATO headquarters is in Belgium. And if you didn't know this, a lot of the courts that throughout the EU are located in Belgium. So you wonder why ISIS attacked Belgium? Those are 2 of the main reasons. Also, it sits closer to Eastern Europe. So, our president spends less than 1 minute on it. I get it that you're down in Cuba and so forth, but then why didn't you take extra time to talk about this? And then it was a day or 2 later, the vice president comes on and finally talks and gives lip service to the attack. And did you notice? Did you hear? It was almost the same words as to what he talked about the Paris attack. Kind of interesting, isn't it? And I tell you, I get on fire when I see our nation's security, which is tied into Western Europe. And these attackers have been hitting Israel for the last 20, 30 years, in particular in the last 20. I've been together with my wife for over 20 years. I told her 20 years ago that homicide bombers are coming to U.S. shores. I told her that they would be targeting Western Europe and mainly some of the bigger cities. And what happened less than 15 years after I talked about that with her? They are now bombing Western Europe. And they are hours away, days away from the same thing happening here. And our president can't even talk about radical Islam terrorism. Radical Islamic terrorism. I'm not insulting anyone else. I'm putting the correct label on who the enemy is. One of the enemies that definitely calls us the enemy and killing us and killing the rest of the Westerners around the world. You know, I don't know. I just don't know about this president. You know, my hat's off to him going to Cuba and Argentina. Maybe he should have canceled Argentina and maybe flown to NATO and get serious about this fight. He doesn't take the ISIS threat serious. He just doesn't. And look at his actions. That's all you got to do. Look at his actions. He is an expert at giving teleprompter, pre-canned, pre-brief statements. Then he goes back into his little shell. You know, why even come out? Why even come out? You know, just unbelievable. And I don't know about you, but I don't feel that Western Europe, I don't feel that the United States, let alone all these other targets, are being protected properly. And guess what? Guess what? In just a matter of weeks, he'll turn towards anti-Second Amendment measures because it's on his agenda. That's all he cares about in his last presidency, in his last hour. That's all he cares about. Because if he did care, why didn't he come back to America or take a trip to Europe and stand with the Belgians, or at least make more of a highlight on it? Folks, this president is not out to protect us. He isn't. He can't even say who the enemy is. It just drives the intellectual side of me. It just sets me on fire that he can't even define the enemy. And then he spends less than a minute and then goes right back to his trip. I'm all for breaking the ice and taking business people over to another country. Okay, I'm down with that. I'm totally down with that. But you don't give enough credence, you don't give enough resources, and you certainly don't put enough actions into protecting America, let alone supporting the people that are being killed and bombed. And yes, folks, Americans are being killed overseas. They just confirmed this morning that among all the dead are 2 Americans. I believe it was a brother and a sister. So that could have been you, that could have been I, that could have been one of your children that are traveling overseas. And it's coming to the U.S. shores. I have other audio clips here, and I got about 4 minutes, and then I'm going to read an email. So, I'm sorry I didn't play more audio clips here. Let me spend 2 or 3 minutes here on what Trump had to say. Then I'm going to read an email. I'm going to answer that email, and then I'll be back next Sunday to talk about this. But this is such a hard-headed individual that all he cares about is his agenda. I can't believe it. I don't know if these are the thoughts going through your head, and I know it's Easter and everything, but these are the thoughts that were going through my head this morning. So let me play Trump and what he had to say about the Brussels terrorist attack, and then I'll come back, answer an email, and we'll finish up the show.
Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump joins us by phone right now. Mr. Trump, thank you for joining us this morning. You put out a tweet earlier this morning saying we need to be vigilant and smart. If you were in the White House right now, what would that mean specifically?
Well, it would mean specifically that we would strengthen up our borders, would be very careful who we allow into our country. Our country has got a lot of problems. We have a lot of people in our country right now that probably and definitely have the same feelings and the same feeling of hate as the people in Brussels. You know, George, I was in Brussels many times over the years, and it used to be a safe and beautiful city. And then it really changed. And I want to tell you, now it's like an armed camp. Anybody that goes there will tell you it's like an armed camp. And I'm talking about before this morning's brutal attack. That was a horrible attack. And Brussels is different, and Paris is different, and lots of places are different. And the police don't have control of it anymore. And it's a very sad thing to see what's happening.
So you've got several fronts in this war right now. What would you be doing against ISIS in the Middle East, in Syria and Iraq? And what more assistance would you be providing to Europe to help them deal with this problem?
Well, I'd be hitting ISIS so hard, and I was not in favor of Iraq, and I was not in favor of a lot of things, but with ISIS, with the chopping off of the heads, and this is ISIS-related, of course, but with the chopping off of the heads and what's going on, the brutality, you've got to hit ISIS so hard, and you've got to take them out and not play tiddlywinks like we're playing right now. And you've got to take them out, and you've got to get the people, the surrounding states, you've got to get them to put up the manpower, because that's what it's going to take.
So you're ruling out American troops on the ground?
I'd rather not do that. Now, we have to take them out. I'd rather not do that. I'd rather use the local countries because they have a bigger problem. They have a massive problem with ISIS. And I'd rather use the troops. I'd rather supply air support. You would hate like heck to get into that situation again. We've already spent probably $4 trillion in the Middle East, and we have to rebuild our own country. We've spent so many lives and so much money in the Middle East now. It's so sad to see what's happened. And frankly, it's worse now than it was 15 years ago when we started. Absolutely worse. If we wouldn't have done anything, it would have been better now. If our presidents would have gone to the beach and taken it easy, the Middle East would be in better shape than it is right now.
But you also suggested,
Okay, that was an audio clip from ABC in an interview with Donald Trump. And I'm going to spend 1 or 2 minutes here finishing up this topic, and then I'm going to read an email and then answer the email. And I got to tell you, I have just been one disappointment over another with our president. And I give him hats off for going to Cuba. I give him hats off for going to Argentina. But this is the ongoing segment. They are both communist countries. Okay? They don't care about the Bill of Rights. They don't care about individual freedoms. They certainly don't care about who they hurt. And just before the president landed, they arrested all these protesters. They arrested protesters that were just trying to say that they want freedom of press, freedom of speech, freedom of movement, freedom of travel. And our president barely even addressed that. So he's gone to these foreign countries, and why not be more outspoken about that? About the freedoms, about the people around the world. And you can't have freedom when you have Islamic radical terrorists killing people all around the world. And is one of the hugest threats to the world. Not climate change, President Obama, but terrorism, including Islamic radical terrorism. There, I said it. I know it's Easter. I'm going to shift gears here. I got about 3-4 minutes left. And believe it or not, I do get emails. And about 3-4 months ago, I got an email. And I thought it was one of the most important email questions that I get. You can go to law540.com. If you have any emails that you want to send me, all my previous radio shows are on law540.com, law540.com. And if you have any topics that you want to talk about, or if you want to be brave, you want to come on my radio show and debate a topic with me, I will do that. I love debating, okay? So go to law540.com. I had an email 3-4 months ago. It said, Dave, love the show. And you said a couple other things that were, about the show and so forth, that were good. And then it said, what do I need for estate planning? Just a will? ? And I would say no. Having a will, just having a will, is actually the wrong direction to go. And I know I know money's tight out there with a lot of your friends and listeners. I know money is tight and so forth, but you got to do your estate planning right. I've been doing estate planning for almost 18 years now, almost 2 decades. And there's 5 things, there's 5 basic things that most people should have in their estate planning. Number 1, if you have a will, if you have just a will, and if you own real estate, or if you have, I believe in Illinois, it's above $100,000, you must go through probate. You must, let me repeat that. If you own real estate, or have interests in real estate, and you have a will, and you have assets, net assets above $100,000, you must go through probate if you have a will. If you don't have a will, you still have to go through probate. It's called intestate, okay? Going through probate, it's a specific court that handles nothing but estates, okay? And it gets very expensive. Most people don't know what they're doing. You got to hire a lawyer at about $300, $350 an hour, and it costs anywhere from 3 to 10, 15% of the estate. Okay, so if you got $300,000 estate, it could cost you 20, 30 grand to go through probate. Now, these 5 things that every person should at least have in their estate would be an LRT, living revocable trust. That's a living revocable trust. That is the magic document that keeps you out of probate and saves a lot of attorney's fees. And number 3, it keeps the transaction private. It is between the attorney and all the heirs. Okay, number 2, you got to have, specifically with the LRT, the living revocable trust, is a pour-over will. A pour-over will. Anything that doesn't hit the LRT then hits the pour-over will. Okay? Number 3, you need a power of health. Power of attorney for health. Okay, so if you're rendered unconscious, someone can go in that you know and trust and can make these medical decisions, whether you want to live or die or non-resuscitate, in your stead. In other words, you're unconscious, can't make these decisions. Otherwise, you leave it up to the hospitals and their administrators. And let me tell you, folks, if you got insurance, they might want to keep you alive for a while. I've seen some pretty weird things out there. Okay, number 4, you need a general and or durable power of attorney. Let me repeat that. Number 4, you need a general or durable power of attorney. And that is, once again, if you're rendered unconscious, a loved one or a trusted one or both could come in and help run your fiscal estate and pay bills and so forth, okay? And the last one, I guarantee you, folks, I guarantee you that 99.99999% of estate planning attorneys out there do not use this form. I only use this form because I practice personal injury. And it's what's known as a HIPAA medical authorization. HIPAA, H-I-P-A-A, HIPAA medical authorization. This allows a loved one to come in, or your attorney to go in and get medical records. You're unconscious, or you're in ICU, or you're drugged up, and you don't have proper legal capacity. A HIPAA medical authorization allows you to go in and get medical records, bring it to another doctor, and then get a second or third medical opinion, whether the original doctor's opinion is necessarily right or wrong. That's the power of a HIPAA medical authorization. If you don't have that, you cannot get access to those medical records. Okay, so let me repeat the 5 things you need. Number 1, you need an LRT, living revocable trust. Number 2, a pour-over will. Number 3, power of attorney for health. Number 4, power of attorney, a general or a durable power of attorney for like finances and so forth. And the last one is a HIPAA medical authorization for medical records and medical billing. Folks, I am on my last 20, 30 seconds here. It has been a pleasure bringing to you live my radio show, the Dave Mierswa Show. I will be back next Sunday, 12 noon, God willing. You and all your friends and listeners out there and your family, you guys have a great holiday. You take care of yourself. Think about some of the things that I said. Don't be afraid to discuss these topics with your children and your family. I know it's Easter, but this stuff is important. The security of your family is important. So tune in next Sunday. I'll be back here at 12 noon. You take care of yourself and your friends and your family now.